BBC News at 8 o'clock. This is Anna Jones. The latest official COVID figures have highlighted a further record surge in cases. More than 122,000 people tested positive in the last day. That's an increase of almost 30,000 on last Friday. 1.7 million people in the UK are also estimated to have been infected last week. Professor Sir Ian Diamond, who's the UK's national statistician, says it's a sobering picture.
We are keeping an absolute laser focus on looking at the numbers. I mean, we have seen some indications of people taking safer behaviour, but at the moment, I think it's far too early to suggest that we will see anything other than a continued rise.
Other figures from the Office for National Statistics indicate that people from Pakistani, Caribbean and African backgrounds have the lowest rates for receiving a booster or third dose of a vaccine against COVID. Dr Chan Nagpal from the British Medical Association told the BBC that 80% of patients in some intensive care units were those who hadn't been vaccinated, and he was very concerned.
This is deeply worrying because in many ways I fear a reputation of what happened in the first wave, where we saw this rather alarming and disturbing disparity in illness and deaths amongst ethnic minorities from COVID.
The government is relaxing immigration rules for care workers in an effort to help a sector which is struggling to attract and keep staff. Ministers have previously created temporary schemes to tackle shortages in other industries, such as for HGV drivers and poultry workers. A man has been arrested following the theft of 100 iPads from a children's hospital. The devices, worth a total of £70,000, were taken from Alderhay in Liverpool last month. Police made the arrest after they discovered 40 of the iPads had been taken to a sell and exchange store. Scientists are making final preparations before a Christmas Day launch of the most powerful telescope ever to be sent into space. A rocket carrying the James Webb Telescope is scheduled to take off from French Guiana tomorrow. Dr Megan Argo, who's a senior lecturer in astronomy at the University of Central Lancashire, says it should provide the deepest view yet of the cosmos.
We'll be able to see, hopefully, right back to the formation of things like the very first stars and galaxies as they formed after the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago, and that's something that at the moment we just don't have the sensitivity to be able to see. So the James Webb will be the first time that we've actually stood a really good chance of being able to see the very first formation of stars and galaxies after the Big Bang, and that's really exciting.
The YouTube star Lad Baby has secured the Christmas #1 for a record-breaking 4th consecutive year. The song, called Sausage Rolls for Everyone, is a novelty version of Ed Sheeran and Sir Elton John's own festive single. They also feature on the charity track. And the weather, the skies will clear over Scotland tonight, but a band of patchy rain will settle over central and southern parts of the UK. BBC News, it's 3 minutes past 8.
After the trimmings, it's time to get your game on.
Boxing Day on 5 Live and 5 Live Sports Extra.
We'll have the thunder from down under.
Broad hits is high in the air, out towards fine leg. This could go for 6.
Ball-by-ball commentary, the Ashes, and closer to home, Premier League football. Updates from around the grounds, plus the latest from the other leagues across the UK. Don't forget to have your say on 606, the UK's biggest football debate. Boxing Day on 5 Live and 5 Live Sports Extra. Check the listings and listen live on the BBC Sounds app.
This is 5 Live Sport.
5 Live Formula 1.
Oh, that'll be the guests. Hey, guys.
Hey!
Welcome to Christmas at Palmer's. Come on in, come on in.
Wow, what a pleasure to be invited.
Oh, your Christmas tree is beautiful.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. What can I get to drink? Some eggnog, maybe?
Yeah.
Delicious. I've never had it.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I'm just going to pop off and get that. But should we just remind ourselves of the epic season we've just had whilst I go and get the drinks?
Lovely.
All the cars are in position. The most anticipated season in a long time in Formula 1 begins now. And Hamilton's going for it again to the inside of Cobb's corner, and they make contact. Verstappen's off. Verstappen's in the wall. Wow. Oh my word. Verstappen just would not yield.
Every driver that's driven at this circuit knows you do not stick a wheel up the inside at Cops.
The Dutch fans in the grandstand are on their feet because Max Verstappen wins his home Grand Prix.
That was epic. You've won your home race.
That's what you get when you don't leave the space. Two drivers fighting for this championship, and they can't afford to lose to each other, so they just crash. Second time we've had that.
Michael, I just send you an email.
Toto, I don't access my emails during a race deliberately.
Yeah, then you should maybe look at this, because there is something with the rules coming up.
My word, this championship battle has taken another twist and turn.
And he's forced off the circuit. They're both miles off the circuit. Hamilton goes through the grass on the way back on, and Verstappen, well, that was some aggressive defence.
Michael, that is all about let them race. That's all about let them race.
Lewis Hamilton, at the scene of clinching his first World Championship in 2008, takes a huge step towards winning his 8th by winning in Brazil.
Lewis, this is how you overcome a 20-place disqualification.
30-25, but you're right. This is the most dominant display we have seen by a long shot. Oh, they crashed! Hamilton's gone into the back of Verstappen. Verstappen was told to give the place back. The two collide again in a very bizarre circumstance.
Just brake tested me.
Never seen anything like that in the history of Formula One.
It's just dangerous driving too.
Hamilton wins in Jeddah and is now level on points with Max Verstappen.
Hard luck with that. I'm sure I agree with all those decisions, but good effort.
It is what it is, mate. I tried at least.
It is indeed.
Right now, we have a wheel-to-wheel race for the 2021 Formula One World Championship.
Michael, this isn't right.
He sends it, coming into turn 5, and Verstappen takes the lead. Verstappen gets ahead of Hamilton and moves into championship winning position. Hamilton has lost it on the final lap.
Oh, Michael, that was so not right.
And Verstappen is going to become the world champion. He won his first world championship on the final lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2008. Verstappen is going to win his first world championship on the final lap in Abu Dhabi 2021. The checker flag is there. Verstappen's the world champion. Max Verstappen, you are the world champion. The world champion.
Oh my God, guys. I love you so much.
You have driven like a champion all year. You deserve that.
Oh, what a season it's been. The ups and downs, highs and lows, the drama, the controversy. I'm looking forward to talking about it, actually. It feels like it's the time is right to just reflect on the whole season now.
Yeah, well, I haven't spent much time talking about it this year, have we? No, it'll be great.
But doesn't it seem like so long ago, some of those clips?
I couldn't
believe Bahrain one.
Yeah, like the Bahrain one when I'm going, oh, the most anticipated season ever. Like,
oh my
I was
word.
just saying that at the time, you know, for a bit of hyperbole to build up the tension and stuff.
Nichols.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, oh, actually, that was quite prophetic, wasn't it? Like, it did turn out to be the best season of Formula One in the history of the world.
And the shunts, the Silverstone one, which was huge at the time, then the Monza one, then the Jeddah one, all the controversy in between as well. It was just the most ridiculous season I can ever remember.
And the tension just kept on building, didn't it? With each round, you could feel the animosity between Red Bull and Mercedes growing. The drivers managed to keep a lid on it for pretty much the whole season. But Christian Horner, Toto Wolff going at it, the crowd, the fans getting very tribal about it. It just had a little sprinkling of everything, didn't it? To make it into this fabulous Formula One season.
How much better or how much more entertaining was the season because the FIA lost control of it? Like if Brazil, for example, the FIA don't completely lose control and everything, and Verstappen gets his penalty, and you know, is the rest of the season a lot quieter? Is Saudi Arabia not quite?
It was only like 3 more races after Brazil.
Well, yeah,
that
true.
was race 18 or 19.
True.
So the rest of it was just epic throughout. The FIA, they did lose control at the end of it, and I don't think it added to the drama. I think that was a slight shame, really, because the drama that we saw for most of it was just pure racing, absolute fighting between Mercedes and Red Bull, Toto Wolff, Christian Horner, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. It was just absolutely dramatic. And we didn't need the FIA to sort of have to meddle in it, really. Well, they did have to, but the decisions they made, I don't think helped the situation. But just epic fighting. And so many, even we've just mentioned the crashes and the arguments, even in the races where there weren't crashes, there were so many thrilling races. We had an epic Spanish Grand Prix. That's happened in 1966.
And then an epic
1996 even.
Yeah, and then an epic Grand Prix at Paul Ricard. The circuit that everybody lambasts as being, the worst one on the calendar, and suddenly they're fighting for... Was that the last lap or second to last lap?
Right at the death, wasn't it? Yeah. I don't remember now, but it was right at the death, and it was the opposite of Barcelona, where Hamilton came through. It was Verstappen coming through there. And guys, we had a good race in Sochi, and we can talk about Spain and Barcelona and Paul Ricard, sort of classic circuits that don't normally yield good racing. Sochi... I've never really been looking forward to a Russian Grand Prix from a spectator's point of view. We've had some drama in the past, but this year, there was just so much going into it. The weather turned, didn't it? We had surprise wins before, and Lando Norris should have won. And then Hamilton wins in the dying laps. Verstappen somehow joins him in the top two. It was just an absolute script for the season.
Do you think when you've got a title battle so close, when the cars, on pace are so well matched, that actually you're going to have races that deliver every time because it's just so close, and we haven't seen that for such a long time.
Well, I was wondering whether it's that or just luck at times, because obviously sometimes you're going to have them battling it out for the win, absolutely. But then sometimes where it was going to be a nothingy race, something random happens and it all kicks off, like the rain in Sochi in both qualifying and in the race at the end. Even in Abu Dhabi, it was settling into a pretty boring Abu Dhabi Grand Prix until Latifi crashes with 5 laps to go, and then it all kicks off. So I couldn't quite work out whether it's just been an incredibly, actually genuinely competitive season sort of throughout the grid, or there's just been a lot of luck that's thrown in to make the races even more crazy than they were originally going to be.
I think it's both, isn't it? And that's why it's been such a thriller, because they've been neck and neck. You could ask me right now, who had the better car, Mercedes or Red Bull this season? And I think it's pretty much neck and neck. At times, one was quicker than the other, and it kept flipping around. So you've got that level. You've got 2 unbelievable greats in Formula One, even though Verstappen's only just won his first title. He's been mega for a few years now. And then you've got these random elements, rain in Russia. We had a lot of rain this year as well. We had
tyres exploding in Baku.
Exactly. A 2-lap showdown in Baku. A restart. That was another one that was going to be a sort of more average race for the year. But so many of them just went down to that. We had the sprint format as well, which you loved, didn't you, Jack?
Yeah, great.
But it did add, it added a bit, didn't it?
It sort of worked. It sort of worked, even though it didn't. The sprint was sort of the worst part of it, because suddenly Friday was really interesting. The grid for Sunday gets mixed up a little bit. But you have to sit through that, 20 minutes of quite nothing happening in order to get everything else better.
And yet, then we got to Sundays, having had a bit of a boring Saturday, and we had the most dramatic Sundays.
Yeah.
The lap 1 of Silverstone in the summer, when I've never seen a first lap like it.
No.
And you had a cracking commentary on that one as well, Jack. I remember just sitting back and listening to that as you were going, because they were side by side for half a lap. So normally Jack would do a few corners and then hand it to me as they sort of filter out end of first sector. But Hamilton and Verstappen were just side by side every corner until they crashed at Copse. And it was just an absolute monologue of Jack Nicholls. But it was
It was a good monologue.
It was a great monologue. It was sensational stuff.
Well, this seems like an apt time then to ask you for your moment of the season, Jolyon.
I think it has to be Silverstone. The drama there. We were all there. It was a boiling hot summer's weekend. And then you get the 2 of them racing like unbelievably fraught for half a lap, wheel to wheel, nearly touching a few times, and then the big collision and the start of the controversy for the whole season. It really tightened up the championship as well, because at that point Max was starting to get away. He'd won 3 in a row, had a 30-point lead. In one touch with Lewis Hamilton at Copse Corner, he's in the wall, big crash. Hamilton's on the back foot, has to recover for the rest of the race as well, and did so well to win his home race again. But the drama on that day was just dramatic.
Yeah, because obviously Abu Dhabi was, it all kicked off at the end.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
But there was no real sort of moment in Abu Dhabi. Verstappen's overtake for the lead at turn 5 wasn't like some iconic moment, an overtake in history. Like it will be, but it wasn't like unbelievable. And Latifi's crash in the wall wasn't exactly like amazing. So I think that's why for the pure moment, colliding and just such a huge crash. I can't remember a bigger crash between two tyres. That's why it got the whole Senna Prost vibes. It wasn't some, Schumacher Hill at turn, 6 or something at Adelaide. It's a slow speed, clunky one. And the same, Schumacher gets up on two wheels, so it's a bit interesting. Villeneuve, Schumacher, it's a bit of an embarrassing bump, and then Schumacher bundles into the gravel. But one of the most iconic corners on the track, side by side and wheel to wheel, and Verstappen's in the wall at 170 miles an hour. It's huge.
And it was at the home race of one of the drivers involved.
Yeah.
So you've got the crowd there as well. We haven't had crowd for a while. Certainly last season there wasn't any. We had them back this year. And it all just added to the drama, didn't it? With Hamilton then going on to win and the contention of it. Verstappen tweeting from the hospital saying, this is unsporting. Toto Wolff and Christian Horner going at it, with Red Bull management thinking that Hamilton should have a race ban. It absolutely kicked off then. And you couldn't have had it kick off in a more dramatic way, really.
And you have to think about Monza as well. Okay, it wasn't the high-speed crash, but it was a real jeopardy crash with Max Verstappen ending on top of Lewis Hamilton. Had it been for the halo, we don't know what would have happened, but it sort of spiced up and took it to another level. And then you've got the reaction of Verstappen and the partisan crowd lumping on top of that as well. And the whole season, I think, has been compounded by fans going, well, he's in the wrong. No, he's in the wrong. It's just whipped it all up into a frenzy.
Oh, hang on, guys. Hold on there. We might have another guest. Steve Crossman's here, everyone.
Hey! Woo! Hello, party people. How we doing? Loving the hats? Look at your Christmas hat.
What's your Christmas tipple?
My Christmas tipple is I like a snowball. You had a snowball before?
No.
I think it might be Advocat and Champagne.
That's the one. That's the one.
Right, I've got it. I've got Advocat and I've got Champagne. Guys, do you want to top up?
Didn't Dick Advocat used to manage Tottenham or something? Sunderland with it.
And then he came up with the Spirit.
Amazing.
Anyway, I'll go get some.
I'll have what Crossy's having.
Yes. I'm also wearing a hat, but it's not a Christmas hat. It is my Abu Dhabi Grand Prix hat because, as Jack knows, I'm now obsessed with Formula One and it's all I want to talk about.
Yeah, it was quite remarkable, your sort of, not turnaround, because you had a mild interest going into the weekend, and then suddenly you were like, oh, I've got to go off to the Abu Dhabi hat stand to buy an Abu Dhabi hat. You love it, F1 so much. Why?
Yeah. Well, the hat was only £9,000 as well, so I feel like it's a bargain. I just got carried away, and you lot carried me away. In a metaphorical sense, it was just amazing, wasn't it? Genuinely, and this is not me being hyperbolic. Best sporting single event that I've ever been to. So there you go.
That's a
Hands
great
down.
shout.
Hands down, because you can just go places and do stuff, and nobody stops you doing it. Or maybe that's just because Jennie Gow doesn't abide by any of the rules. It could be that. I'm still not sure at this point. Is this Palmer's
there's
house?
a couple that I abide by.
This is Palmer's house. It's Palmer's party.
It's not what I expected.
What were you expecting from Palmer's house?
Everything made of gold.
I ooze quality. That's the thing.
What was so remarkable for you about Abu Dhabi in terms of the post race stuff, right? That when it all kicked off, and because I presume you were expecting to kind of be off air and then hand over to 606, and then we were sort of done, but it just went on and on and on and on and on.
The gift that kept on giving. It really was, wasn't it, Steve?
And what were you sort of thinking in that period?
When do I get to go home? No. The most amazing thing about it was not only is this gigantic sports news story happening, but you're still allowed to be there and be a part of it. The last time I can remember like a major decision happening and me being able to literally be outside the doors ready to interview people as they come out of the lift was when I was at the Africa Cup of Nations in 2015, and they had to draw lots to decide which of two nations went through from the group stage. So we were packed round the lift doors waiting for someone to run out and scream, "Nous avons qualifié." And it was that level of drama, but it's just the fact that you could be there. Christian Horner could come out and you could follow him and you could stay with him. And then Max Verstappen could appear and then you could nip round the back of the garages and suddenly you're on the track as they celebrate. it was the physical proximity to the story, which is not something I've had for a long, long time. I think that's what made it so cool. You know, it wasn't that, I mean, obviously decisions were being made behind closed doors, but you could sort of feel it and learn about it as it happened. It wasn't just made by lots of faceless people that you never got to see and talk to and question.
I think for me, it was, as you say, breaking news story within the sport that we all cover and love and know pretty well. And being in the middle of that, and then 5 Live kind of enabling us to carry on broadcasting. Everyone else had gone off air pretty much. We were the only people really in the UK bringing it to everybody live as it happened. And that's a pretty special moment for your sport to be the centre of attention. And for us to get the access we did, and for us to be running around, we were like proper news hounds, weren't we? It was great.
When does any other sport finish with a controversy as we had in Abu Dhabi? Because we commented on the race, and on the face of it, what a thrilling finale. The 2 drivers, we're all there to watch them battle it out for the championship, winner takes all, and then they do it on the final lap of the final race. On the face of it, couldn't have been any better, could it? But then comes the controversy afterwards, and Mercedes' protest, and hang on, what were the FIA actually doing at this point? When you don't really get in other sports, the end of a tournament or the end of a season and this level of controversy, so you can't really declare the winner in the evening.
That's the thing. The full-time whistle goes in kind of any sport, and that is the end. But we've seen so many times in Formula One, you know, somewhat. I remember, where was the one with you, Jenny? Was it Australia? You nearly missed a flight because of Ricciardo's fuel thing or something?
So, yeah, he had a fuel flow irregularity, and standing around, and at the end of that race, it was really like elbows out to try and get the press release from Christian Horner to get a comment from him. I got the first comment, and then I ran to get in a car to go and get my flight. Otherwise, you know, flights aren't just left there with you might make this, you might not. It's if you miss your flight, you're not going home that night.
I don't know if I'm risking missing a flight in 2014 for Ricciardo from second place having a fuel flow irregularity. but that's commitment to the cause.
This is the thing. I think, you know, you asked me the question why it was amazing for me. I think we should be asking Jolyon, because Jolyon, if he can avoid it, never wants to come on the radio. So what was it that made you compelled to actually come on the radio?
I love the radio. I live for the radio. I'm not going to have my good name slandered here at my Christmas party, Crossy.
But you're
radio
so right.
killed the F1 star.
No, it was the drama of the end of a season. And I've loved the radio nothing more than this year with everything that's happened, and to talk and bring the passion, emotion and sport that we all love to the audience. But this year and that last race, you're trying to just work out on the spot what's going on. So first of all, there's the result, and Verstappen wins. We knew at the time, Jack, didn't we, from the commentary box, something's odd is going on here with the lap cars not being able to go through. Then suddenly as Vettel's overtaking the safety car, and we're told the safety car's coming in. So it didn't feel normal from the commentary box, but you got to call it as you see it, and Verstappen crossed the line and was champion. But then we were just trying to sort of work it out on the fly. What's actually going on? There are 2 protests coming in from Mercedes, trying to decipher what's going on and trying to just basically work out who's the champion. And it's all at the end of this intense season where everyone's interested in Formula One again. So I don't know if it was I don't think personally it was a great thing or a real pleasure to be involved in that stewards debacle afterwards. What do you think, Crossy? Do you think it was good or bad for F1 that it all went on?
Ultimately, I think it is probably good, because I do think it will bring a much, much bigger audience to the sport. However, I think it's right on the line, because I think you're in a position with the sport now where people will come to it because they love that drama, but that line between drama and farce is incredibly thin. That is razor thin, as Jack would say. It's literally on a knife edge. So I think it swerved, you know, viciously either side of that line. And I couldn't really decide as that story was happening, is this great? Is this awful? But I think it doesn't just have to be one. I think it was probably both.
And I think what compounded the problems for the FIA was this rivalry we've got and the tribalism of the fans. This wasn't just a one-off race and should someone, Lando Norris, keep the win, or should this happen, or should Hamilton beat Bottas in years gone by. This was the fans then feeling so many of the fans just feeling like hard done by a decision, on top of obviously Lewis and Mercedes as well. But the tribalism, I can't remember a season where there's been so much vitriol after so many incidents this year as well.
Well, it's the whole world, isn't it? Has gone with social media, has gone very binary, and you either support this person, or Brexit or not Brexit, or Trump or not Trump, or everything is partisan in the whole world now. Huh?
Who do you support?
Out of what?
Hamilton or Verstappen?
This is what I find really interesting, is that, and I'm curious actually, Steve's thoughts on this as well, because on Sunday breakfast, you had Chris Warburton there going, who do you support? But obviously it's Hamilton. You have to be supporting Hamilton. He's the British driver. You have to support Hamilton. And I'm not knocking Chris at all, because I understand that principle. And it's the same with football. The Euro final, all of the coverage is assuming you want England to win the Euros. Whereas for me, motorsport is not like that at all. I am completely, people might laugh, hopefully not you here, but people listening, because I get enough stick on Twitter for it. But I'm genuinely completely impartial. And the fact that Hamilton's British kind of means nothing to me, honestly, because I'm here for the sport and I want to see good sport. And so I understand that we have so many more listeners at the moment because Hamilton is British, and so therefore there's more of an interest in it in the United Kingdom. But for me, it makes absolutely zero difference, which I think is, and I don't know if that's unusual for a sports broadcaster, or if that's unusual for this sport in particular. I don't know.
I think we're all in the same boat, aren't we? But there was the stories of either were going to be tremendous for who won. You've got Hamilton trying to get the 8th and being the most successful Formula 1 driver ever, which would be epic to witness after this season. Or you've got Max Verstappen, the young prodigy, trying to get his first and stop the great Lewis Hamilton's run.
But Steve, because like the Euro final is not impartial, right?
No, I was just thinking about it as you were talking then, and it's just about giving me enough time to formulate something which might even 50% make sense. I think the difference is the England football players represent the nation of England. Lewis Hamilton represents Mercedes. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, Jolyon's kind of said that before, in that am I throwing you under the bus here by saying you never felt like you were racing for your country, right?
You're racing for yourself, aren't you, really? It's an individual sport. It's not like the Olympics or a national team. You're racing for yourself. I was racing for Renault, the French team.
If only we had an Olympics in motorsport, then you'd be backing, your Lewis Hamilton and Jolyon Palmer team. However, we don't do that, so you never get into that bit, do you?
I don't think I would be.
But you'd be supporting the Netherlands.
No, I wouldn't be supporting anyone.
All right, Nicholls, time's up. Get out.
Right, thanks for having me, Palmer. Bye-bye.
I do actually have another party to go to, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, the Robbie Savage 606 party?
No, I pied that one off. I'm going to Nader Manua's eggnog extravaganza at the Etihad. That's what I'm doing.
Brilliant. All right, well, you enjoy that, Crossy. I'll be honest, I'm getting a bit frustrated here. You guys have been great. I'm enjoying your company.
Yeah.
There's a few no-shows.
There's quite a lot of no-shows. It is just the three of us. Like, Steve Crossman popped in for like 5 minutes.
Where's Radio 1's Christian Hewgill? He was meant to be here.
That's the only reason I agreed to come.
Right, I'm going to call him.
Jolyon Palmer, hi. This is a bit awkward.
Where are you?
Well, do you want the honest answer? I'm not going to fob you off with some excuse. I am in an echoey meeting room in Milton Keynes.
Why? What are you doing there?
I kind of got another party invite. It's a little bit of a homecoming party. Oh, I can only apologise. It's a little bit of a homecoming party for a guy with, quite a strong connection to Formula One. He's had quite a busy few days, quite an eventful few days.
Who?
Max
Andrew Benson.
Even more eventful few days than Andrew Benson. Max Verstappen.
Hey!
Hey.
So yeah, literally about to go and speak to Max Verstappen, sat in a waiting room, which has casually got an AlphaTauri Formula One car parked outside of it. And looking forward to having a little chat with Max Verstappen after a bit of a party to welcome him back.
Did you not extend Max the invite to this party?
He shunned it. And
Really?
this is getting a bit controversial, isn't it? A bit them and us right now. Christian, before he comes, how's the season been for you with your Radio 1 audience? Are they gripped by it?
Yeah, absolutely gripped by it. It's been really interesting for me, being a Formula One fan for a long time, but having covered it for Newsbeat for, say, the last 3 or 4 years, just how many more younger fans are engaging with it. I think, obviously, what's helpful is the likes of Lando and Charles Leclerc doing Twitch streams and all that sort of thing. You got these exciting young drivers coming through. The Drive to Survive series also helps. But this year, it's so easy to find young Formula One fans to go on the radio and talk about it because people have just been gripped by this battle. It's just been thrilling. And our audience loving a bit of Max versus Lewis as much as a 5 Live audience.
And you've obviously liked F1 for a while, so you must be seeing this difference that we're certainly experiencing where suddenly it's like, oh, other people like Formula One. Do they? I thought it was just me.
The way I described it on Twitter was it feels like I went to see a small indie band in a club about 3 or 4 years ago, and now everyone's like, they're really big. And I'm like, yeah, I saw them when they were small. I mean, that hasn't happened because I'm not cool enough to do that. But yeah, it warms my heart. It's lovely seeing people come to the sport and kind of get why we love it so much. So it's really nice to see it speaking to more people, and I hope it continues.
I saw Dua Lipa on one of the small stages at Glastonbury. Yeah. Like quite a small stage, and then you're like, oh, she's quite good. And I think I vaguely recognised.
Did you talent spot her?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, guys, this woman should go big, to be honest. And everyone was like, you know what, Jack, your music taste is impeccable. You're absolutely right. She should open the Champions League final. Great idea. That's how it worked. Are you nervous, Christian?
About speaking to Max?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I've spoke to him in person a couple of times before and he's been lovely, but he's had a lot on and obviously there's been all the controversy. So yeah, a little bit nervous, but we'll have a nice chat. In fact, should we throw forward? Do you guys want to hear what is hopefully a nice little chat with Max Verstappen?
I mean, this feels like a strong gamble that you're going to wage to tee it up, say it's amazing and not know whether it is or not. So we're all in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Max, I'm going to start with a sentence and I'd just quite like you to react to it, if that's okay. Max Verstappen, Formula One world champion.
Simply lovely.
Have you got used to hearing that yet?
Slowly. I mean, especially, between my friends and family, it has been something very emotional, to talk about because it has been our life goal since I was a little kid. So, it was really, really nice when it happened.
Let's go back to Abu Dhabi. When you cross the line and that's it, your life's built up to that moment, what goes through your head?
Yeah, it's a massive outburst of emotions from everyone because of just the craziness of, in general, the season, but then also, of course, the last race where it looked like we're losing the championship and then you win it at the end in the final lap. So, yeah, a lot of emotions came. I mean, I was very emotional myself, but this is something, you work very hard for when you're a little kid and then when you achieve it, it's incredible.
And world-class sports people like yourself, you guys are used to having one shot, one opportunity. But when you are going up the inside of Lewis Hamilton and this is the last lap of the last race of the season in the most intense Formula One season ever, how do you keep cool in that situation knowing you just need to overtake the guy in front of you?
Well, so that's one thing. But then I also had a massive cramp in my leg already leading up to the overtake. So I was already struggling to just press the throttle fully open. And of course, then when I went for the move, then everyone's going crazy in the team, blah blah blah. And it looks like I'm just fighting him off. But I was also dealing with a massive cramp in my leg. So, and it's extremely painful when it happens to your calf. I've had it before. So yeah, it was quite a few intense moments on the straight and then the next straight as well because I'm fighting off a 7-time world champion, but I'm also dealing with myself here. So, yeah, tough times.
Of all the times to get cramp.
Yes, but that I think is just because of the excitement and nerves and tension in your body as well throughout the whole race that happened.
And what you don't want to do is come back and, put your foot down to stretch and let the back end go. And you might, Max, why did you spin off? I was stretching for cramp. It wouldn't have sounded great, would it?
Yeah, exactly.
So give us a bit of an exclusive. What happened afterwards? How was the party?
Party was very good with all the team members as well. I mean, we had a lot of fun, and especially after such a busy season, everyone needed to just let it out. And then especially, of course, when you win the championship together, that made it extra special.
Was there a drink of choice?
Well, there were a lot of different kind of drinks. I enjoy a gin tonic, so I had one. Too many. One too many.
Man after my own heart with gin. Difficult to mix gin with Red Bull, though.
That is a little bit more tricky. That's why you mix Red Bull with other stuff.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, good. As long as you get it to Red Bull inside.
Yeah.
And what's the last few days been like? It must have been a whirlwind. Have you had any time to sit and reflect that you are world champion?
It's been very tiring because I was in the car again on Tuesday, but even on Monday when I woke up with a headache, I still had to do a lot of media commitments. So I didn't really have a proper rest yet. So I'm definitely looking forward to the coming days, like after the FIA gala, to just wind down a bit.
The party's good, but a sleep will be pretty good too, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and not only that, just to not think about racing for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just have time with family and friends and catching up. That will be very nice.
You are probably one of the most talked about men in the world right now, and that's not even an exaggeration. How does that feel, given the controversy around it, given it's probably one of the most talked about moments in the sport's history?
I don't think about it too much. I'm just very happy, of course, that we won it, the championship, but I'm also happy to not be able to, look at my phone and just have some time with close friends and family. But it has been a crazy season, I think, in general. And of course, that final race made it even more crazy for everyone around the world.
And your fans are delighted. A lot of Formula One fans are delighted. Obviously, there's a lot of Formula One fans that didn't like how the final race went. A lot of Lewis Hamilton fans that didn't like how the final race went. Has that controversy and the fact that some fans are a bit upset, has that taken the shine off any of this for you?
Well, you could also, if it would have been the other way around, probably it's the same thing, right? It's just, it's racing at the end of the day. Anything can happen in this world, and you could see that actually throughout the whole season, a lot of crazy things have happened and unexpected things, So this was just another one.
You remember Murray Walker, the English commentator?
Yeah.
Anything can happen, and it usually does in Formula One, is what he used to say.
Exactly.
And it has. You grew up around Formula One with your dad, Jos Verstappen, being a Formula One driver. You were karting from a stupidly young age. It's everything to you, isn't it? Put into words what it means to finally have reached the pinnacle of what you set out to do from the minute you were old enough to fully understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a life mission from together with my dad, because he basically, once he stopped racing in F1, he devoted his time fully to me, and he gave everything he had, to bring me to where I am today. And without him, I wouldn't even been in Formula One. So yeah, it's incredible, to go through these emotions together once you win the championship.
I mean, my dad's my hero. It must mean a lot, like doing it for your dad almost.
Yeah, my dad has been my hero for a very long time.
Max, you're 24, right? You're young compared to a lot of top-level sportsmen. Like, 24 is a young age to be. Is it a lot of pressure for a 24-year-old? Do you ever get time to be a 24-year-old, play games, go for a gin and tonic with your mates?
Yeah.
Do you ever get time to be 24?
I do think so. Of course, you grow up very quickly throughout, racing and traveling the world, all over the world, basically. But yeah, I do have time with friends and family. Not as much as I would like, but like you said, I do my stuff. I have my fun with drinking or whatever, and gaming or whatever. So yeah, I do feel that I have all this, but I also know I have a job to fulfill, right? I mean, I have to be serious about it, and I love doing what I'm doing right now, and I hope I can do it for a bit longer.
And you hope you'll be doing it alongside Lewis, because you two have given us, as Formula One fans, the most epic battle to watch. I know you've got a lot of mutual respect for each other. Do you hope that this is only the start, or maybe the middle, of your battle with Lewis Hamilton? Do you hope there's more of it?
Yeah, I mean, Lewis is 36 now. Yeah, so I mean, there's maybe a few more years for him. Hopefully, a few more years for me after that. But I hope, of course, that he will stay in the sport a bit longer, and we can have more of these battles. But I also hope that other young guys, because of hopefully with the new rules, more teams will be more competitive. That we all have that fight against him as well, because he's a 7-time world champion, and it has been a pleasure to race against him this year, especially.
And obviously it would do, but it got intense between you two at points throughout the year.
Yeah.
Are there any regrets? Would you do anything differently? The Silverstone crash, the Monza coming together. Is there anything you'd do differently at all?
No, I think there are no regrets. Of course, sometimes you wish things didn't happen. I think he thinks the same way about it. But we all, both of us, when we look each other in the eye and shake each other's hand, we do respect each other a lot. And I think we really enjoyed the battle in general throughout the whole season.
And you won't remember this, but the first time we met in London at a Red Bull event, I asked you, and Lewis had got another 2 titles to win at this point. I asked you, how do you beat Mercedes? How do you beat Lewis Hamilton? You gave me an answer that I loved and I always remember. You just said, really simply, be better than them. This year, were you better than them?
I think over the whole season, maybe not, but we were smarter than them.
Nice. And there's a lot of elements to sport.
Yes.
So you reckon...
Never give up. That's a big element.
And would you say that's just, we've got a lot of young people listening to this. Does that got a lot to say to,
that's
some of your younger
fans? That's definitely what happened in Abu Dhabi. Never give up, keep believing, and keep pushing.
To the last possible minute in Abu Dhabi. And just finally, are you expecting them to be like a wounded animal next year? Are they going to come back even stronger? Because, you'd have been gutted losing it in that way.
Very strong.
Okay, yes. Quite. That's what I'm getting. I can imagine.
But luckily, I'm not wounded.
Okay. do you expect them to come back even stronger next year? Because imagine you'd lost in that way. You must be thinking, I want revenge.
I don't work like that. So because then you have the wrong attitude in general. Because if that will make you work harder, then you're not working hard enough before that. And we, as a team, I think always are working hard. It doesn't matter if you lose or win.
So you think they'll be the same regardless?
Well, I don't know how they work. At least I know from my experience that if I would lose, it will not make me work harder because I work the same already, even if I'm winning or not winning.
Well, you didn't lose. You won.
Luckily we did, yeah.
Enjoy every second of it, and thank you for the most thrilling season in memory.
Great interview, Christian. For you... no, I have to say it's great. Because if it's not great, we won't play it out, presumably.
I thought he gave you some really strong answers there.
For you, was this the best F1 season of all time? That's the sort of the question we're asking all of our guests.
For me, yes. I've watched probably every F1 season since 1999. That was when I was 8 or 9 and old enough to properly get what's going on. I've loved every second of it, and it's there's a popular GIF on social media from Gavin and Stacey. If you're a Gavin and Stacey fan, you'll get it. It's it's the drama, Mick. I just love it, and that's what that's what it's been. It's just been every twist and turn, and every little bit of drama, and every spicy interview with Christian Horner or Toto Wolff. It's just I just love it. So yeah, for me, it's been the best ever. I've loved every single second of it, and I'm so excited for next year with rule changes and new cars and the potential of other teams getting involved. It's brilliant, isn't it?
I'm a little bit worried we've had a decade's worth of drama crammed into one season.
Yeah. I'm going to go flat after this. I hope not. Christian, as a fan and a journalist, which side have you enjoyed more? Because I find I've appreciated it as a fan, but as a journalist, it's been next level extraordinary.
Yeah, I've loved it as a fan, and I don't, go to every race like you guys do. I'm lucky enough to interview the drivers, and I love doing that, but I do still try and sit down on a Sunday afternoon and watch it as a fan. So I've loved that. But then equally, after Sunday's race, and having explained what happened to about 300 people, even I was getting a little bit tired of being okay, so they all bunch up around the safety car normally. So I feel a little bit exhausted from this season as a journalist and probably ready for a break, but as a fan, loved every single second.
Highlight of the year?
Oh, great question. I haven't thought of one particular highlight. Do you know what? Let's go left field, because obviously I feel like I'm doing an obscure driver of the day now, which he gives Palmer for, but obviously there was the last lap drama on the last race, but I loved seeing Daniel Ricciardo get his win in Italy. The joy that guy brings, he's so popular with so many people, and one of those nice moments of sporting joy where everyone's united in being yeah, this is lovely. So that was a really nice piece of sporting joy for me that I just loved this year. So let's go with Daniel Ricciardo winning in Italy. Let's be different.
What's your low light of the year?
Ooh, even more tricky question, Jolyon. I guess it's sad to see people calling out the sport for the sort of messiness. I guess that's quite sad. So my low light of the year has maybe been seeing so many people so upset by what happened. I just hope at some point we can kind of move on from it as a sport and appreciate the on-track battle between Lewis and Max, and appreciate that no matter what the result, these two are the best of all times and two properly worthy world champions and two absolute greats who do have this respect for each other. So it's been a bit sad seeing some of the backlash towards the sport after what's been a brilliant year. But these two guys are just awesome, and I hope we can appreciate that for many years to come.
Hear, hear.
That's a cracking answer.
Yeah, really strong answer, Christian.
Oh, thank you, guys. I appreciate that. I felt on the spot. I felt under pressure there.
Oh, hang on. Doorbell's gone. Sorry, Christian, got to go. Someone's actually turned up to the party. But thanks a lot for shunning it, but bringing us Max Verstappen. Have a great new year.
My bad for not being there. Have a great Christmas, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Got so many friends, Palmer.
Well, the party doesn't start until this person turns up. It's Andrew Benson.
Hey! The BBC's chief F1 writer.
Hi,
Andrew
guys.
Benson. What is
Happy
the first thing you
Christmas,
do on
everybody.
Christmas morning?
I'd make a coffee, definitely. It's the first thing I do on Christmas morning.
And then what?
Well, in our house, we actually open our presents on Christmas Eve.
Oh, no.
It's a tradition of my wife's family. And
Canadian.
we carried it on. I'm not sure whether it's to do with that, but she is a Canadian citizen, you're right. But no, I think it's actually quite cool, because I remember when I was a kid, you know, those hours between getting up and then being allowed to open your presents, and your parents are starting to make the dinner and you've got to go and pick your gran up. And it's just like, when you're a kid, it's just like agonizing. And so ours don't have that. You know, they've already got their presents by then, and they get a few stocking presents, even though they're quite old now and don't. And you know, so I don't want to ruin anyone's Christmas. So I won't go into the Santa situation, but
It is real. Benny, can I get your drink?
I'd love one, mate. Thanks very much.
I've got a warm eggnog on the go.
Lovely. Just my favourite drink of all time.
Anyone from Palmer's Pie?
Yes.
Oh, look.
Wow. A Palmer's pie.
Did you actually make those?
Homemade mince pies.
That is beautiful.
I'm actually going to have one now.
You've decorated the box and everything. That is gorgeous. I'm allergic to milk, actually, so I can't have one. But thanks very much. Benny, pie?
Yeah, why not? In for a penny, in for a pound, Jenny.
They're all right, actually. They've got a really crispy crust.
You can't beat homemade, Jack.
No, and the mincemeat. It's really good quality mincemeat as well.
Yeah, only the best.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm very impressed with this.
Andrew, we have been talking a lot about Max and Lewis, but there are 18 other drivers on the grid, and some of them have been extraordinary this year. Who are you going to pick out?
Well, there's 3 or 4 obvious ones for me that sort of stand out apart from Hamilton and Verstappen, who are obviously head and shoulders above everybody. And they're Lando Norris, George Russell, and the 2 Ferrari drivers. For me, they've been the next best drivers over the season, without any shadow of doubt. And people will argue about what order that goes in, and it's hard to judge because they're all in different cars and all the rest of it. But they're the other 4 standout ones for me.
Give us one. Who's the top one?
Lando, out of all of them, Lando Norris. I think he's been fantastic all season. He had that little dip, didn't he, after Russia? And I don't know how much of that was psychological. I mean, the disappointment of having that win slipped through his fingers, but he bounced back at the end. He had a fantastic weekend in Abu Dhabi, and I think as a whole over the season, he's been brilliant in qualifying. His racing has been exemplary. He's shown Daniel Ricciardo the way, which I think nobody would have predicted at the start of the season, certainly not to the extent that he has. And he's really established himself as, one of the really highest echelon of drivers. And I told him that actually when I had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Thanks very much."
Oh,
Still humble.
What was he eating?
I can't remember. I think he had steak. Yeah, I think he had steak.
Oh, wow. Very good. I wonder if Lando this year has put himself in the top bracket alongside Lewis and Max potentially. When you look at the job he's done against Daniel Ricciardo has he ever really been beaten by a teammate across a season?
Max did in the last year they were together at Red Bull, and it's probably one of the reasons why Ricciardo left, I think. But you were right; it was incremental. They started, and Ricciardo was ahead of Verstappen, and then as time went by, as they were teammates, Verstappen sort of got closer and closer, and then sort of surpassed him. But you're right, for Norris to do what he did against Ricciardo, and I don't think not excuses, but reasons maybe is a better way of putting it. Ricciardo wasn't comfortable with the car and all the rest of it. If you're a top line driver, that you shouldn't have. There may be some period of adaptation, as we saw with quite a few drivers, including Fernando Alonso, for example. But shouldn't take that long for you to sort that out. And so I think over a season as a whole, you can't use that as a reason for Norris being so superior.
Well, even in the last races, Lando was quite a way ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, and it just had really bad luck on the closing stages. Otherwise, he would have had fifth in the championship. And this is Daniel Ricciardo, 7-time winner, now an 8-time winner. This is a guy that everyone thought could be a champion in the top car, but Lando's done such a great job.
Well, it's the same story, I think, with Carlos Sainz, isn't it? I think the reason that Sainz and Norris are getting sort of so much praise for this season is overall, well, if you'd asked me at the start of the year, I say Norris and Sainz are both getting beaten by their teammates. Not hugely, but overall. And Sainz is a difficult one because Leclerc was probably quicker over the course of the year. Sainz has finished ahead of him in the championship, but I was not expecting Sainz to be anywhere near that close to Leclerc in the same way I was not expecting Norris to be that far ahead of Ricciardo.
Who's your top driver outside the top two?
I think it's Norris as well, and I think that's because Sainz has been impressive, Leclerc's been impressive, but they've both made a lot of mistakes. They both, they're difficult to read, the two of them. But Norris just coming in, and if I'm Mercedes and I have a free choice in that second seat alongside Hamilton, I think I'm picking Norris over Russell after this year.
No way. I think Russell's year has been exemplary. I think he's done such a good job. Bearing in mind, he's in a Williams.
No, he's been great.
I think Russell's highs, Jack. I mean, that car's not very good. Let's be honest. The Williams is the second slowest car on the grid. He was second on the grid at the Belgian Grand Prix, ahead of both Mercedes in the rain, and then third in Russia. It's that's
Norris
like
would have been on pole, but yeah.
Otherworldly stuff. We can't disregard that. And he's had a series of really strong races as well.
I'm not disregarding Russell in any way. I think he's a tremendous talent, but I'm just saying, if you had to pick over this season, Norris or Russell, I think you're having a really, really difficult choice.
I'm going with Jack on it. I'm going with Lando. And the way that he held off Lewis Hamilton in the end of that Sochi race until the strategy and the tyre choice got away from him was unbelievable. For a guy that's never won a race, has a 7-time world champ breathing down his neck in a Mercedes, then it starts raining, and he's still off the road a couple of times, but scrabbling around, we all know how good Hamilton is in the wet. Behind him, it was really legendary stuff, I think, from Norris.
But aren't we in such an amazing place? I mean, we talk about not supporting Brits because it's not really how Formula One works, but we've got such a good stable of talent. Obviously, you've got Sir Lewis Hamilton, 7 times world champion. You've got Lando Norris, one of the most promising drivers on the grid for McLaren, who hopefully next year will really be able to put on a really decent challenge. And George Russell moving up from Williams across to Mercedes, who can also put up a challenge. We are in possibly the best place we've ever been for British talent being able to win a championship next season.
We could see some British podium lockouts next year.
It would be so
Mercedes duo and Lando Norris, if McLaren can be resurgent. When was the last time that happened?
Andrew Benson is going to have a lot to write about next year, I feel.
When was the last time there were 3 British drivers on the podium?
I can't remember, but it must have been Coulthard, Hill, and Irvine,
like a Herbert or something, or
Herbert. Yeah, that's.
I don't know the answer.
Do you know, I've got this written down in my book somewhere, but now my book is full of 22 races and everything that happened last time. I'm not going to find it, am I? But I remember writing it down.
While you're looking for it, Jenny, I just want to talk about the Ferrari drivers for a minute because we touched on them. Because I think the fact of Sainz is he's been hugely impressive. You're absolutely right, Jack. But I think what that underlines is how underrated I think he's been over his career. And we now see, if we now look at how Norris performed against Ricciardo, and how Sainz and Norris there's basically nothing to choose between them. If we look right back to the beginning of Carlos Sainz's career, who was his teammate? Max Verstappen. And over the course of a year and 4 races that they were teammates, guess what the qualifying average between them was? Sainz was actually quicker, only by 200s. But over that season and a bit, he was the quicker driver out of those two, which I think says a lot. Now, I think he's someone who needs to feel wanted and involved and integrated within a team. And he worked really hard to do that at Ferrari this year. And yes, Leclerc was over the season the more impressive driver. He was faster, he was out-qualified Sainz more often, and he should really have finished ahead in the championship if you take out a bit of the bad luck he had here and there, particularly Monaco, although he brought the bad luck on himself by crashing at the end of qualifying. But Sainz, almost by the end of the year, Sainz was looking like the more impressive of the two. And to do that against Charles Leclerc, who put in some fantastic performance. Think back to Silverstone when he nearly won in that Ferrari, and how he was on pole in Baku, I don't really know. And he keeps doing that sort of thing. For Sainz to be that good against someone who is exceptional, I think they've got a fantastic driver lineup there, Ferrari. It's arguably, well, there's a lot of fantastic driver lineups, especially next year with Hamilton and Russell at Mercedes together, but that's arguably the strongest driver lineup on the grid. You could make a case for that anyway.
How exciting is it coming in next year with Ferrari maybe finding a bit more pace, epic driver lineup? We talked about Lando, Mercedes with George, Red Bull with Max Verstappen, the new champ. It's going to be a thriller. Andrew, I know you've got loads of other Christmas parties to get to, so we're going to have to let you go.
He's got Fernando Alonso's to get to.
Exactly, that's the important one. But you must have been around F1 since its inception. Where does this year stand?
Not quite that long, Jolyon. I'm not that much older than you, but
Fangio in 1952.
I mean, it's right up there, isn't it? I mean, you could. I think what's going to be interesting is it's been astounding to be in the middle of this season, hasn't it? It was astounding to see how it ended, I think as time goes by, I think our appreciation for it will only increase. You certainly could make a case for this being the greatest season ever, but I think it's unfortunate the way it ended.
Best ever, yes or no?
I'll go for yes.
All right. Cheers, Andrew.
Thanks. See you next year.
Bye. See you next year.
Thanks for dropping by.
Happy New Year.
Oh, well, now Benson's gone. It's probably about time you guys left as well, I'm afraid.
Wow, what a less than an hour party.
The party stops when Benson leaves.
It's quite remarkable.
Like speed partying.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Cyril Abiteboul was coming.
Enough of the quips. Enough of the quips. Jack, quickly, 2022, what's going to happen?
I have no idea because of the new regulations. Obviously, you would say, another Verstappen versus Hamilton fight for the title, but can Ferrari get involved? They've really found a lot of pace towards the end of the year.
And they've not had a championship battle to contend with. So whilst everybody else has been like, how do we beat Mercedes or Red Bull? They've just been a clear run for 22.
Next year is really, really exciting because what is going to happen? And it will define the next few years of Formula One. Are McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes all going to be in the title fight? ?
Aston Martin, Alpine, Fernando Alonso back in title contention. Anything can happen. You've got Lewis Hamilton still going for the 8th.
Do you actually think anything can happen?
Is Max Verstappen going to get number 2? Is he going to be rejuvenated? I think anything can happen. It's all new rules, Jack. Think about this is end of 2008, last lap to decide the title.
Yeah.
Massa beaten by Hamilton. And then next year, Brawn win? Who even are Brawn? Maybe there's going to be a new team for next year and it's going to completely turn it up.
Some good pairings as well for next season, like different pairings. Obviously, you've got George Russell going up to Mercedes alongside Lewis Hamilton, an all-new lineup with Bottas going to Alfa Romeo. I think you've got Guan Yu Zhou. How are we pronouncing Guan Yu Zhou? Have we decided?
Well, it's a whole palaver. He said yesterday on a social media video, "Hi everyone, it's Zhou Guan Yu here." So I'm going Zhou Guan Yu.
Okay, well, Joe coming in, which is going to be really exciting. We've got Alex Albon at Williams. I just think Williams was so resurgent this year compared to where they were last year. What could they do next year? And the possibilities are endless.
Oh, what a note to finish on. All right, guys, scram. Get out of here. Get out of here.
No presents. Harsh.
Hang on. So we're Jenny and I are off, and you can do the wrap up all by yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
Go.
See you later.
Bye.
it's time for the news coming up. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Everyone have a great new year. We'll see you in 2022.
Voice of the UK. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
BBC News at 9 o'clock. This is Anna Jones. New figures suggest that as many as 1.7 million people in the UK had coronavirus in the week up to last Sunday. The Office for National Statistics says it's the highest infection rate since its COVID survey started last year. Separate figures from the government show that more than 122,000 new positive COVID cases have been recorded in the UK in the latest 24-hour period, a new daily high. But Sir John Bell, who's a professor of medicine at Oxford University, says data from South Africa on the Omicron variant at least may be encouraging.
This is a really, really infectious virus, and that's really its biggest threat. It doesn't appear to be so big a threat in terms of causing severe disease and death in hospitals, and it certainly wasn't so in South Africa, and hopefully it won't be so here.
The government is relaxing immigration rules to make it easier for care providers in the UK to recruit workers from abroad. The Department of Health said care workers will be added to the list of occupations which had shortages. Visa applications will be fast-tracked and fees will be reduced. Here's Sancha Berg.
For at least 12 months from early next year, employers will be able to recruit care workers from abroad if they pay them an annual minimum salary of just over £20,000. At other peaks in the COVID pandemic, the care sectors helped take the pressure off the NHS as patients were discharged to homes. But currently, many cannot take new residents because they don't have the staff.
A man and a woman have appeared before Southern Derbyshire magistrates charged with the murder of a 10-month-old baby. The boy died after emergency crews were called to a house near Chesterfield last December. A man's been arrested on suspicion of stealing 100 iPads worth about £70,000 from Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool. Police found that a man had sold 40 of the devices to a sell and exchange shop in the city. Scientists are making their final preparations for tomorrow's launch of a replacement for the Hubble orbiting telescope. A rocket will take off from French Guiana carrying the James Webb Space Telescope. Heidi Hamill, who's an astronomer working on the mission, says the new instrument will provide the clearest view yet of the origins of the cosmos.
Webb will push beyond what Hubble has been able to see and get to the point where it can see the first galaxies that have ever formed in our universe, and maybe even the first stars. That will give us great insight into how our universe has formed and come to be what it is today.
The YouTube star Lad Baby has made chart history by clinching the Christmas #1 for a record 4th consecutive year. Mark Hoyle and his wife Roxanne, also known as Lad Baby Mum, made the chart's top spot with Sausage Rolls for Everyone, a novelty version of Ed Sheeran and Sir Elton John's seasonal single. BBC News, it's 3 minutes past 9.
The Ashes on 5 Live and 5 Live Sports Extra.
Richardson in and is taken. Gone. That's it. Anderson's gone and Australia have won the Test match. They take a 2-0 lead.
Hear every ball, every boundary and every wicket of the third Test. Live from Melbourne.
Needs to be a bit braver, get the ball up there a bit further, because when we do, we're going to make life difficult.
The Ashes. The third Test starts Christmas Day evening from 11 on BBC Radio 5 Live. Plus, you can hear a roundup of every day's play with the TMS podcast. Listen on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
For this bonus episode, I feel it's only right we replay the best language warning that's ever appeared on the podcast. Enjoy!
Run, come gather round. Who goes there? It's Tom, Starkey, Peter Crouch, podcast business. REMINEATMC. Oh my God. The best podcast in the world. Tom Starkey and Peter Crouch. The best podcast in the world. Tom Starkey and Peter Crouch. The best podcast in the world. Tom Starkey and Peter Crouch. The best podcast in the world. Tom Starkey and Peter Crouch. Got Peter Crouch, I drop it with the banter and the laughs. Tom and Starkey drop it with the bad podcast. Bad podcast. Bad podcast. Bad podcast. All with the bad language. 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 All with the podcast.
Hello and welcome to this bonus episode of That Peter Crouch podcast with me, Peter Crouch, Chris Stark and Tom Fordyce are with me as usual. Looking forward to this one, boys, are you?
Yeah, definitely.